Hello peoples on YouTube's lands. This is Apollos, and in this video I would like to share with you a story. Not any story, mind you. I'm going to share a true story. Ha! Ha ha! Because it being a true story matters. So, I'm at my job today, and I work in retail, as some of you already know. One of the coworkers is talking with someone in the back, one of the other coworkers, and the Bible gets brought up in their conversation, and the guy asked him about what his favorite Bible passage is. Now, the guy who asked this question was not a religious person, okay? And so they got into this conversation or whatever. And so he came out, and there's three of us out front in the store. No customers are around. And he comes out, and I'm like, where have you been? And then he proceeded to talk about how, he was in the back because he asked that question and turned into this, 5-10 minute conversation. So anyways, he comes out and he's like, oh yeah, I asked him what his favorite Bible verse is. And I'm like, oh boy. I said, oh no. You should know better, because if you ask a Christian what their favorite Bible passage is, that is like the door for Christian evangelism. That's it. We are ecstatic when a non-religious person that's just like a freebie right there. We're like, what? You asked me what my favorite Bible? Oh, I'm going to tell you about Jesus. Well, and so we were laughing about it because that's, I was joking around. Because I can joke around, and I think it's good to, otherwise us getting in a serious conversation about religion at work is not appropriate, and it's not really a good time for us to do that sort of thing. Anyways, but this other coworker, because there's three of us out there, there's four now, and this other guy next to me, he says, oh, Jack, what's your favorite Bible passages, not a Bible verse? I'm like, oh, well, I've got several. He's like, oh, what are they? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to... For what? He's like, well, I'm curious to know. I was like, well, 2 Timothy 1:7, Hebrews 12:1-3, Romans chapter 12. And he was like, oh, what do those say? And I'm like, what, do I need to quote them to you now? Is it going to make me something special if I quote these Bible verses now? So anyways, we're going, and I'm walking back, and he says, well, my favorite Bible verse is, guess which favorite Bible verse, because, of course, he was being very original. John 3:16. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, really, all the Christians know John 3:16. That's like, duh. I mean, if you're a Christian, you know John 3:16. If you don't know John 3:16, well, how's you a Christian anyways? You know what I'm saying? I'm joking, by the way. But some of you aren't going to get that. Sarcasm, satire, whatever you want to call it. But perhaps that'll make it a little bit funnier anyways in the comment section. But whatever, I'll let you all deal with that, because I'm not really going to be messing around with the comment section anyways. So anyways, I need to be careful, don't I? I do. Perhaps I do. So he says John 3:16. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I really was thinking to myself, and I told him, I was like, John 3:16, dude, really? He's like, oh yeah, it's my favorite verse. And I said, okay, so anyways, before he said anything after that, I said, okay, I want you to tell me, though, what does John 3:17 say? Because that's always, people, all the Christians in the world know John 3:16, but they don't know verse 17. Then you stump them, and they're like, I don't know what 3:17 says. So anyways, I asked him what John 3:17 said, and he's like, I don't know. He's like, I know John 3:16 says that greater love has not a man than to lay down his life for his friend. Whoa, I was like facepalm right there, facepalm. Because, here it is. There's two guys who are non-religious. There's this guy here who's religious, and there's me, okay? And he just said in front of us, and what's funny is that the non-religious guy next to me, he says, as did I, at the same time, we're basically like, that's not what John 3:16 says. And the non-religious guy began quoting it. He was like, it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Okay, so he says that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, that's not. So anyways, It was really funny. It was really funny. And then, so they're asking, this guy asked me, the other religious guy asked me, he's like, okay, so what do those Bible verses say that you mentioned? And I'm like, well, 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Hebrews 12:1-3, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let's throw off everything that hinders, sin that so easily entangles, blah, 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 blah. And I went on and on. And he's like, oh, wow. He was impressed. He's impressed. How easily impressed. How easily impressed we can be by such tricks. And perhaps calling it a trick isn't the nicest of terms, but that's how sometimes it feels. This sense of, I can quote a bunch of Bible verses. That means something. And so what happened was immediately after I got done just rattling it off like it was nothing, immediately I walked over to the three guys standing there, and I walked over and I'm like, let me tell you something real quick before you think anything about this, okay? I want you to know that the easy task is for a Christian to quote a Bible verse. That's the easiest thing that anyone could ever do. The far more challenging task and the far rarer demonstration is that the Christian manifest the reality of Christ in them, in their words, in their actions, and their thoughts. That is what I want to see and hear and experience. I really am. I could care less if you're going to sit there and quote some Bible verses to me. And then immediately after that, I pointed out, I said to them, I was like, you know what, guys? I have plenty of friends who happen to be atheists that can rattle off Bible verses like no other Christian. Bam, bam, bam. They could just quote those Bible verses. They were raised up in it. They can quote those Bible verses. At the end of the day, what does that mean? People go around using it like it's oh, you want a gold star. You can quote Bible verses. Ooh, let me give you a gold star because you can quote a bunch of Bible verses. Nothing wrong with memorizing the scripture. There's something wrong, though, when we get this all mixed up. We place on the pedestal the easier task that requires nothing of us except for to sit down and memorize. We forget the most significant, the most important task, the task of living the life. Anyways, that was my story to share with you all. It was a true story. It's a true story. Y'all take care. Peace.